as Clint on his channel says, we'll chop it up. Clint Music. I
All
don't know if you
right.
ever
I
listened to
know how to
Clint.
chop it up.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I have to admit, I am an avid, sometimes rabid, YouTube consumer. I may watch hours of content a week. After a busy day of composing and producing or teaching or whatever I'm doing, or just walking around Disney, I'm ready to watch some people talk about the things that I want to know about. Probably why you're watching this channel right now. But one YouTuber I found recently is today's guest, and his name is Jon Meyer. You may know his channel already. I love his unique and eclectic channel, his sense of humor, and his style and color of his videos, and I just think he's pretty hilarious as well. But what really made me want to talk to Jon was that he is a full-time working sync licensing composer, and he makes the majority of his income from it. So I got to find out how he does it, what his motivations are, and how he lives his life as a composer, a producer, an arranger, a YouTuber, a sound recordist, a filmmaker, a photographer, an educator. Hey, before we get started with the interview, I just want to tell you about a new free ebook I have for you called The Tools You Need to Make Music and Make Music Income. It's kind of inspired by my video last week that you can see right here. And I basically just talked about DAWs, digital audio workstations that you could use to make music, and also told you about the free versions. Well, all those links are right in this ebook. I also have links in this ebook to a bunch of free instruments and also some keyboards that you might want to look at. And I'm going to continue to expand this, and you'll get the update if you take a look at this ebook. And I hope you like it, and it's totally free, so go get it right here. I've also made changes to a lot of the ebooks that you're going to find in the free section, so go get the new stuff right here for free at makemusicincome.com/free. This video is brought to you by my new ebook about sync licensing, since that's what we're going to talk about a lot today in this interview. It's called Getting in Sync, and you can find it right here. This is all about how I got into sync licensing and my focused approach, including finding the right quality music, signing with my first libraries, getting placements, and eventually making music income, and how you can too. Jon and I talk a lot about sync licensing in this discussion, and these two things pair well with each other. So if you want to get that book, you can get it right here, makemusicincome.com/gettinginsync. You can find out more about the ebook there, chapter titles, and also how you can get all of my ebooks, the free ones, the paid ones, all for under $20. Just check right here. Now let's get into the interview with Jon. Well, I'm so happy and blessed to be here with Jon Meyer. I say that right, or Meyer?
You got it right. You're one of the few.
I'm here with Jon Meyer, and so happy to be talking with you today. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your schedule. I know it must be super busy. We're going to talk about that, what your schedule is like and how busy you are. But first, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody on this channel. The very first question is, how do you make music income?
Well,
Generally,
how do I make music income? The majority of my music related income comes from royalties from my production music library work, synchronization royalties from the library, performance royalties, international and domestic. That's my primary way of making money. Not so much anymore, but my main gig used to be renting out my studio, producing bands, and I did that all through the 2000s, and then it was probably around 2011 or 2012. I was about 30. I met my soon-to-be wife. I was making enough money to survive on my own, but not enough to think about a future or a family. And I started teaching. An opportunity came up to teach a production class at a technical college here in Dallas. It took about 20 hours. I was teaching each week, and that is when I met the owner of the library that I still work for. I had made this, I've told this story on my channel a few times, but I had made this ridiculous CD that I called Moody Grooves. and it's what I thought production music was, and it was terrible. And I gave it to him, and he took the meeting because of a friend of a friend. He was being kind. He listened to everything, and he wrote detailed notes about how it wasn't all that great. And then he listened to my personal album, and he thought, well, there's something there. And so he got me to writing my first production music album, and then that led to hundreds now, about 1,000 tracks. And so I made my money teaching, but then I was writing and writing and writing and made no money at that for years. And then finally the checks started coming in, and they started coming in. And about 4 or 5 years ago, that became my main source of income, maybe 6 years ago.
Would you say that is 80% of your income now that supports your family?
Probably about 60 or 70%. I think there have been, my wife also works, and she has a good job, and she enjoys that and wants to do it. So I don't feel a lot of pressure to make all the money for our family. And that's why I can make YouTube videos. I realized a couple years ago that I'm not a person that can sit and just write production music 40, 50 hours a week in this room, sitting here, do it. I can't. It wouldn't. I'm sure I'd make more money.
So if 60, 70% is your licensing, what makes up the rest of your music income on a monthly basis, would you say? You do instruments. Let's talk about those.
What's that? Sample libraries? Yeah, I forgot about the sample libraries. I would say I have really failed at releasing these libraries. I mean, I released one for pay last year, and I've got another one. Well, I have one that just came out through Spitfire Audio, through the piano book, but it's delivered through the Spitfire app.
Yeah, that's cool.
And honestly, I don't know how much money I made from that. I'll find out soon. But hopefully that number continues to grow, and it's more about just the logistics of getting them done. I've given away a lot, and I've made some money off tips and such doing that. So the libraries, I don't know, maybe 10% of my income is from those, but hopefully that goes up. I made a couple $1,000s on YouTube, not a lot, certainly. And then I have a handful of clients. Like I have a nonprofit client that it's a group called Kid Links that I've worked with for years, and they do music for kids that are in hospitals, but that's kind of grown to be more involve more types of scenarios. They have like music therapists, but also I forget exactly what they're called. So I do some of that, and then I have a handful of clients that still pop up from my studio days. But I've kind of, when you get out of that scene and you're not going out and playing music, I used to go play a lot, guitar and such, and I was around everybody, and you'd get more work that way. But when you get out of it, and then I do make some money. I worked at a church for 10 years as a part-time worship pastor. And then I got to where I just had too much going on, and I stepped down, but I stayed there, and they hired somebody, and he was there for 7 months, and he quit. And then everybody was like, I guess John will do it again. So now I got the job back because, it's my family. It's where we go. And so I do make some money off that as well. But yeah, it all kind of comes together into something that seems to work.
About when did you get started in licensing in general, years wise?
I'm going to say 2011 or 2012 is when I got serious about it.
Before it was
I guess
cool.
that's when my first. Yeah. It even then though, it felt like I was late to the party.
Oh, really?
But it was definitely so much more difficult to find information about it. I mean, that's why I made that silly royalty-free album, because I didn't even know what royalty-free meant, or I didn't know what anything meant. And fortunately for me, I had somebody who came along and just dumped all of the information on me, and I felt so honored. I mean, I had all this information that a lot of people did not have. And so with the channel, in a way, I'm trying to share some of that more difficult, even though it is easier. The channels like yours, it's easier to find this information now. But there's a lot. It's not necessarily intuitive. It's not always what you would think, from how the business works to what songs work. It's not artist radio that we're making. We're making something totally different. And so if I can kind of educate people on, just open their eyes to some new ways of thinking about monetizing your talents, that's kind of what I hope happens.
So, how many libraries are you with right now?
Most of my music is with one library. It's 99% of what I've done is in one spot. You might get a lot of the same stories from people that I get. They just can't get people to pay attention to what they're doing. And I try to address that as well. That maybe it's something you're doing that you can fix. Maybe it is just a tough business. It's brutal. I mean,
Usually, to me, it's either they're not really trying that hard, or they're not. They don't have very good communication skills.
I
And
get emails now, and I'm amazed. Like, it is so clear the emails that I'm going to open and invest my time in, and the ones that I am not
right,
going to.
yeah,
They're hilarious. It's just like fill in the blank. They found a form somewhere, and I sent a letter, and I thought I was doing a good job, but I sent letters to the biggest production music libraries in the business when I first got started, and I put the owner of the wrong company on in the email. And this guy wrote me back. He was like, "Hey, I'm actually so and so. You meant to talk to, because it's such a
oh
small
boy,
world. You meant to talk to this person." And he was nice about it, and I'm sure he laughed. And I was able to share that story with him later, and I think he got a chuckle out of it. But
yeah.
it is the way that we present ourselves really does matter, and that's part of the reason why in this new world of YouTube, if you want to find out about me, you've got hours and hours and hours and hours to go find out about me.
Yeah.
If you're considering me for something.
Mhm.
And so that's what I figured. Maybe in this new world of media, it's not as separated as it once was. When I first started, you were a recording engineer, or you
Yeah.
were a producer, or you
Yeah.
were a songwriter, or a mastering engineer. And now we're all the same. So why not be a videographer and filmmaker as well? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wasting my time, or maybe this is just kind of what it needs to be like moving forward.
A question about your libraries or library. Do you get briefs on that from them?
Yeah, I talk to the publishers, and they typically will each quarter will kind of go over what they need and what they think that I and my team can deliver. Sometimes I'm working with some people that have a very specific skill, and so we tailor an album or we do
Right.
tracks based on that. They get so many calls, or maybe there's a new client that they've got that needs a certain style of music, and they need more of that type of thing. Sometimes it's super specific on the actual client, and most of the time it's, hey, these kind of tracks do well.
I think it's important that people realize that a lot of this stuff is not necessarily like a brief that comes to you from Taxi or something like that. It's more of a
Yeah.
conversation you have on the phone, likely with
Mhm.
your contact at the library, who says, you know what, we're really missing this. We just need
Yeah.
country, or we just need,
Mhm.
Christmas, or we really don't have any hip hop EDM or something like that. It's not a problem with one of the libraries I'm with, but they will tell me, we're looking for this. We don't have this. Can you make an album of this?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I got a very specific. I mean, we do some custom projects occasionally. Yeah, I've done some custom work for them where it's a little more specific, but usually it's more generic and not as specific. And it's also like, what is the library doing well with at the moment? I mean,
Mhm.
Atomica has grown into a huge library, so they have all kinds of clients. But sometimes if you're working for a smaller library, you need to know what they do well. Yeah, not everybody has the opportunity to get the answers to those questions, unfortunately, because there's a lot of us, and there's
Yeah.
these libraries, they're working incredibly hard,
And they're small
and they're
teams,
trying to
probably.
they're small teams, and so that access is something that not everybody can get, and it takes a while, it takes a lot to earn that kind of access. The people that are representing your music are the ones that are going to make it or break it for you. I mean, if they're talented and they're working hard and they know what they're doing, that's the only way it's going to work, unless you're somehow pitching your music yourself. Obviously, if you're new at this, that person who's giving you access has all the cards. I mean, they're in charge of this relation. They have the power in the relationship, but you still need to use your develop your skills of discernment, and how that when you're talking to somebody, is this the kind of people that I want to be connected with, ethically, and do they seem to have a pulse on this business? And then you have to make your music and just forget about it. When you connect yourself, that's part of this process, though, is breaking that connection between you and your music. I've learned where my job is,
Yeah.
and I try to put as much art into my job.
Yeah.
But I also know that that's my job, and I know what my art is. And
It also sounds like, though, from a music composition point, you are writing as much as of what you want as what the company wants. Like, you're not just cranking for a company. There's an artistic license that you have and that you try to keep as far as pumping out music, not just making it because the brief said it and you're like, I don't want to do this. You do things, and which is what I do. I kind of say, yes, I will do a country record, but I'm going to write the stuff myself, and I'm going to enjoy it somewhat as I do it. Is that
Absolutely.
part of what you do?
Oh, no doubt. And I love the process. Like, if it's something new, and I trust the whole process that it's going to get me where I want to go. Is that if it's a new style, well, I get to learn a new way of making music. And so I go watch people in that genre make that style of music. I try to figure out the way their brain approaches the music. And, there are some people who they don't know anything about harmony. They're just making music, and some of it's terrible, but some of it is amazing. And so I'm trying to okay, well, what is it about this person and the way they approach music that I might get hung up on a certain thing, but they're not getting hung up on that thing. They're just letting inspiration. So I guess what I'm saying is that's the process that I love and I find so engaging.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, one thing that I think a lot of people make a mistake on is they listen to music that is being used and they think, oh, that's garbage. I can do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And they go and they write something that is better than that, but it's different. And it no longer has what that editor or what that director, it doesn't feel the way that track felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think that we are, oh, those are just hacks doing that, and I'm better. So I'm going to give them my thing. And then they listen to it and they're like, that's a good piece of music. But it doesn't jump out of the speakers when they're auditioning songs as being, that's the emotion and the feel that I want.
Jon and I talked about so much in this interview, and there is more. We talked a lot. Some of that we're going to share on the Hello Composers channel. If you're not signed up to the Hello Composers channel, go there and sign up. And we have all sorts of composing things there that we're doing, and more is coming soon. But you can see when I post that interview to that YouTube channel, you can check that out as well. Jon has some really interesting things to say about being a composer. You can find out more about Jon, listen to his music, and hear his instruments at johnmeyermusic.com, and you'll find that link in the description below. I hope this conversation has been helpful to you and given you some insight. And as always, thanks so much for watching.